Have you forgotten that? I mean, it's amazing how I can't believe the stupidity of these people, the arrogance of these people, the hubris of these people to carry out a surprise attack that assassinated the supreme leader of Iran and then pretend that they somehow have some leverage and say on how this conflict ends. No, you picked the wrong side. Now you pay the price.
If Trump seeks an off-ramp, Iran would not.
No, why would they?
Not allow him to take it?
Let's just think this thing through. Iran didn't war. We know that. This war was started by Israel and the United States. It was a war meant to be of existential proportions to eliminate the Iranian regime. This was it, all in. This is like going to a poker table and going all in and suddenly realizing that you got the losing hand. Say, can I have some of those chips back? No, you went all in. You lost. It's over. Iran said, okay, this is now an existential game. Meaning, just put yourself in the Iranian seat. They paid a heavy price. I mean, what's happened to them is horrific. Not just the assassination of their supreme leader, but the destruction of their infrastructure, the slaughter of 170 innocent school girls, and on and on and on we can go. So they've paid this price, but now they're winning. They're going to win. It's done. It's over.
Why do you say they're winning? Because they are closing the Strait of Hormuz, so I agree with you there. And I do think, by the way, I agree with you that they are winning. But I wouldn't define it that they're winning militarily. You talked about the one-ton warhead, but the attacks on the Gulf nations, most of them have been intercepted, a lot more than I expected. And the attacks have dropped significantly. The attacks on Israel, less so, but they're still significantly less than the 12-day war. And there's been talks about them sinking a U.S. warship. That hasn't happened. American bases took a hit, but the attacks have dropped drones and missiles by over 90%. So would you agree that strategically they're winning because they're closing the Strait of Hormuz, but militarily it's a bit different?
No. Why would you say that? If your targets are radars and communication facilities and you've destroyed the radars and the communication facilities, do you need to send the same amount of weapons in? They've accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. They blinded the United States. They made it impossible for the integrated air defense to communicate with one another. They've basically made Israel defenseless. You want to pretend that Israel's not getting struck? What happened last night? Whose house got hit? Netanyahu's house. Whose house also got hit? Ben Gvir's house. They're starting to take out.
Just waiting for
and now the FBI started to take out my internet. But the point is,
you're back. So you said Netanyahu and Ben Gvir's house were hit yesterday.
And Iran is starting to target Israeli leadership. Israel will not walk away from this clean. They will not walk away from this intact. When this war ends, if Iran stops the war now,
I think Scott is cutting out. He's going to just come out and jump back in. But just going to give you guys some updates because there's a few things that are happening behind the scenes. All right, Scott, you're back with us. I was going to read out some updates for the audience because there's a lot of developments that are happening right now. There's a lot of talks and even the markets are reacting. I think Trump's giving a speech today, and there's a lot of talks about Trump seeking an off-ramp, and that's starting to get a lot of narrative today. Not sure how much truth there is to it, but you're saying that Iran would not accept that. You're talking about Israeli defenses, but at the same time, American bases are not being hit the same way they were in the first few days. I think you'll say this is a war of attrition. There's talks on the American side that most of the missile launchers were hit. The drones are obviously a lot harder to hit, the drone factories.
No missile launchers have been hit, Mario. No missile launchers have been hit. Let's just stop the nonsense. Have you seen the evidence? What we know is they're hitting decoys. I mean, they may have hit one or two missile launchers, but the point is Iran's missile capability to deliver missiles has not been interdicted at all. Zero. This mathematical
but the missiles, why did they drop the amount of missiles they fired? Because they should continue. I understand it's a war of attrition, but if they keep firing missiles, then the air defense systems, the munitions that are already depleted, will deplete even further. Everyone's talking about depleted munitions on the Israeli side, on the American side, on the Gulf side. So wouldn't it make sense for Iran to keep firing those missiles to deplete the munitions even further?
Well, they already have. I think Israel's down to firing PAC-2 Patriots, which means they can't shoot anything down. They're out of PAC-3s, which means they're already depleted. They're out. They can't shoot anything down. That was proven last night. They simply can't shoot it down. So if you're Iran, do you continue to fire 15-year-old missiles, which is what they've been firing, which, to absorb missile defense, or do you now transition to the big guns? Now that they can't shoot you down, now that they can't defend, now it's time to deliver the real damage, the real harm. They said they're going to turn Tel Aviv upside down. This war doesn't end until Tel Aviv is turned upside down. Israel doesn't get to carry out a surprise attack against Iran and walk away clean. That isn't going to happen. There will be a price that's going to be paid. And the same thing with the United States. Iran will not accept an off-ramp, because to allow a ceasefire to take place at this time means you simply allow the United States and Israel to hit the reset button, and then you're going to do this all over again. This has to be the last time Israel ever thinks about launching an attack against Iran. It's over for Israel. It's done. Netanyahu gambled and he lost. And the proof is that they're looking for an off-ramp. If Israel was confident, remember just yesterday they were saying, we're in it for the long run. This war could last a long time. Now they're looking for an off-ramp. Why? Because they know the truth. They are defenseless, and Iran's about ready to bring the hammer. And they know that, and they know what's about to happen. So they're looking for an off-ramp. It's an act of desperation. Why would Iran concede all of the advantages it has accrued so far? We're blowing. Look at the stupidity. You know this. You've seen the images. We're dropping bombs on painted targets on the ground. We're dropping bombs on painted targets on the ground.
This is not all of them. But this is not all of them. There's a lot of videos as well of strikes where you see the explosion that shows that something was hit. There's also ones of painted targets that were hit. But I wouldn't say all of them. My position, obviously you disagree, but my position is that on the missile launcher side, a significant amount of them were hit. And the issue is really the drones, especially when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, and how expensive it is to intercept those drones. You could use a CRAM, but a CRAM covers a very small, distance. But if you're going to be able to strike all these different targets, all these infrastructure in the Gulf, the American bases across the Gulf, Israel, the Strait of Hormuz, it makes it very difficult to intercept the drones. And this is what this is the way Iran could win this war strategically.
They're going to win the war strategically with missiles. Again, you do know that I'm a missile guy. That's what I did for a living. Okay, I inspected them, I hunted them, I know them. The missiles that Iran are firing right now use a launcher that is geared to those missiles. So even if, let's say, Iran's firing 15-year-old missiles, the missile launcher being used for those missiles is not usable for the newer missiles. You need a different launcher. So if all Iran has been doing is firing 15-year-old missiles, and let's say you're right, they've been knocking them out. Although, last night, did they really knock them out? Because the missiles are still coming in. The next generation of missiles hasn't even been deployed to the field yet. The United States and Israel hasn't had a chance to target them yet. They're still safeguarded. So those launchers haven't been destroyed. They're still there, and now they're getting ready to be introduced into the battle at a time when there are no defenses. So, no, with all due respect, this is a part of the war that I know better than anybody. I have fought a war against decoys. I understand how decoys are employed. I understand how diversionary tactics take place. And I understand how badly we suck at this, because I was there in the Gulf War hunting Iraqi Scud missiles, and we didn't destroy a single one of them. And I know how the Israelis have operated too. The Iranians are smart. They've been preparing for this conflict forever. They're not stupid. They're not going to sit there and play to the strength of the United States and Israel. Iran has been monitoring how the United States and Israel carries out aerial interdiction now for over 20 years. They know them better than they know themselves. And they have adapted a plan accordingly, and they're winning. They're winning across the board. The fact that they have opted not to erase Dubai off the map isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. They've sent a signal to the Gulf Arab states, don't get involved. You need to stop supporting this. And again, you just got to be honest. The Gulf Arab states have been facilitating the Israeli-American attack against Iran. They are parties to the conflict. They are not innocent. And so they're given an opportunity now to back off, to send the right signal, to stop colluding. If they choose to do that, then maybe they survive. If they don't, they're very vulnerable. Dubai could be terminated in a very short order, and there's nothing Dubai can do to save itself. The same thing with Abu Dhabi, the same thing with Kuwait City, the same thing with Saudi Arabia. Known points of vulnerability with no defense. And Iran has the ability to take them out. Iran hasn't delivered their Sunday punch yet. They're getting ready to. And when these missiles rain down, we can have another show and you can tell me I was right again.
Just give you the numbers, Scott. I'm sure you know them. Day one was 400 to 500 missiles, even more. Day 270 to 200. Day 390, 100, 42, 20 to 50, 20 to 40. Yesterday was 10 to 30. Today looks at 10 to 20, maybe even less. It's ongoing so far. And most of it now is being targeted on Israel. The numbers have dropped by over 90%,
And yet
about
Israel's
95%
begging
now.
for an off-ramp. Mario, if your math was right, why would Israel be begging for an off-ramp? Why would Israel
Because
be
the
saying,
global-
we got to get the hell out of this? If
I
your
don't know if
numbers
it's
right.
I don't know. I don't know if that report is true that Israel wants an off-ramp. I think Trump wants an off-ramp. That's my thought. Trump wants an off-ramp because the global economy is getting hit. Politically, he's getting hit. The munitions are low. It just does not make sense to be bogged down in another forever war. And he doesn't need a regime change as much as Israel. My guess, and there's a lot of concern in the Gulf that this is the case. I think Al-Habtour, the billionaire, said the same thing. My guess is that it's Israel trying to drag the US into this. You know, it's a Jerusalem Post that put out a report yesterday that was false, claiming that the UAE struck Iran. The UAE said this is false. It's not true. At Jerusalem Post, and they made a correction. Today, Lindsey Graham is saying Saudi should join, or the Gulf should join. Later, he put a tweet saying Saudi should join, otherwise there's going to be consequences, which is fucking crazy for me for him to say that. But here we are. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this. But could it be that Israel wants this war to continue, or at least wants this war to continue with the US involved, and is trying to drag Trump into this for longer than he wants?
No. Israel started this war to achieve regime change in Iran. And it's 100% known to everybody that there will be no regime change, that Iran is permanently entrenched. Vilayat-e Faqih will be here for the next 50 years. You know, the supreme leader is a permanent part of the Islamic Republic. You can kill a person, but you can't kill the institution. And that the Iranian people, 90 million of them, have rallied around this government like nobody ever anticipated. So there it is. Israel lost the war. This was a regime change war. Israel made a condition to the United States beforehand: don't start this war unless we can guarantee the outcome, which is the end of the regime. That outcome cannot be achieved right now. So all that's going to happen is Israel's going to be destroyed. That's all that's going to happen. Iran is far bigger than Israel.